she has something really, she doesn't talk about it much, she sings beautifully. This is our chance to hear what she has to say. Thank you for giving her the respect and time, and if you want to speak, Dr. Fetzer. Yeah, thank you. Let's give Beverly a big hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, I had the honor of meeting this woman and being photographed with her in 2003. I never imagined that I'd be up here having the opportunity to introduce her tonight. She has an amazing story. I'm really interested in hearing it again. I give you Beverly Oliver.
Thank you. And Judyth, I can't tell you what a blessing it has been to be part of your conference. I have never sat in on a conference before. I've come in and sit for 10 minutes and leave, and come in and sit for 5 minutes and leave, because I'm not a researcher. I'm an eyewitness. And I still have hopes of someday getting on a witness stand and raising my hand and swearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. And I don't want what I know and what I saw to be confused with all these wonderful experts. But, well, I feel totally outclassed up here today because I'm not a researcher. And it's just been mind-blowing to me today to sit in here with all the information. And, oh, it's just... It's like getting a drink out of a fire hydrant. But you know, there's been a lot of conversations and through the years as to who I am. Am I really the Babushka Lady? Well, no, I'm Beverly Oliver, and I was dubbed the Babushka Lady by Richard Sprague because I did not want to be part of this. I did never want to come forward, and I didn't do it voluntarily. And because I had a babushka headscarf on, he dubbed me the Babushka Lady, and Jean was dubbed the Lady in Red, and Mary Mormon the Lady in Black. I didn't intend to go to Dealey Plaza that day. I loved President Kennedy, and being a young lady and not even old enough to vote yet, I was 17 years old. I worked at the Colony Club downtown Dallas. Yes, you could work in clubs when you were under 21, you just couldn't drink. And I wasn't allowed to mingle with the customers. But I worked down there and started when I was 14 years old. It was the first time I worked for Abe Weinstein. There's another rumor going around that I worked for Jack Ruby. No, I didn't work for Jack Ruby. I worked for Abe Weinstein at the Colony Club. I did host after-hours parties for Jack. I bartended for his private parties because, believe it or not, in 1963, Dallas was still BYOB. So the only thing we could serve to customers was beer, wine, and setups. So when Jack had a private party, I would go over and bartend for him. And if I wasn't married to a Baptist preacher, I'm still a good bartender. Shh. But that day, I so wanted to see the president, and I started walking down Commerce. Well, first, let me back up a little bit. I had been to Fort Worth to an all-night party. No, it was not at the Cellar. I had gone by cab, so they brought me back by cab, and my car was parked next to the Colony Club. That's what we did each month. We paid by the month to park our cars. So I went in, and it had gotten rather chilly, and it had been kind of rainy, and so I got out and got into the trunk of my car, and I put on my old walking shoes, and I got a bag out of the back of my car, put my camera and my film and stuff in it, put it over my shoulder, and stood out and realized it was chilly, so I got an old raincoat that I had back there and put it on. Now, if you see this, I don't have well, you can't really see it on that one, but I put the coat on actually over my camera, my bag. So when you see that hump on my back in some of the pictures, it's not my fat. It is my bag. And so I know why some of the things that you can see a little bit on the side there. But I defy anybody to tell anybody that is not my profile. That is me. I wish to God I could tell you that it wasn't. That's the one day I would change in my life. This was taken a couple of months, maybe 3 months prior to the assassination by Jack Ruby. I'm going to rush through these because this was in Jack Ruby's club. Now, I took this picture. This was me in the summer before the assassination when I still worked at Six Flags Over Texas. And I took it to show you that I wore different color hair. And the day of the assassination, I had on a brown wig, and I had my scarf on. So that was the wig I wore that day, actually. And what happened, the reason why it's pulled apart, is we had a tornado hit our house in 1989, I think it was. And I had these pictures out in the storage building, and it demolished the storage building, and when we could get out to get through it all, some of the pictures have been stuck together, and that's one of them. These are just some of my publicity pictures from back then. Believe it or not, that's still inside this fat old wrinkled body somewhere. Thank you. And this, I'm going to go, I have to point, I'm sorry. This is me sitting on Santa Claus' lap. That's just a picture to show the difference in my waiting times. This man right down here in the left is Lawrence Taylor Ronco Jr., Larry Ronco. He managed the Kodak store at Six Flags Over Texas. And that's how I met him. I was dating him. He's the man who gave me the Yashica camera. And that's the lower left is the entrance into the Colony Club, where you paid and then you charged and you went into the club. And this man up here on the upper left is my former husband, George Albert McGann, the alleged leader of the Dixie Mafia, a hitman, who at the time of his death was accounted with 19 murders here in the state of Texas. We had been married 4.5 years when he was shot in the back 4 times and in the abdomen once in a gangland slaying. A year and 7 months later, I was at the Southern Baptist Convention in St. Louis, Missouri, and met the best man I've ever met in my life. That was in June. We had our first date on New Year's Eve. We went to the New Year's Eve Christmas party at some Christian friend's place. The next day we went to the football game. Now, you know what I knew about football? That it took 4 strikes to make an out. But I played like I knew about it. And that was on New Year's Day. And on February the 16th, he asked me to marry him. And February the 18th, I marched him down the aisle. That'll tell you what I think about long engagements, but I knew a good thing when I saw it. We've been married 45 years. This is another picture of the gentleman that gave me the camera, Lawrence Taylor Ronco, and some more people that had come in from out of town. And this was taken at the old Cabana Hotel out by the pool. Now, the day that, on the 22nd of November, I parked my car and I got into my coat, like I told you, got my camera and everything, and made sure it was working and the working procedures. And I'm walking down Commerce Street, or up Commerce Street, whatever that is. And I was looking up the side streets. I never intended to go to Dealey Plaza. And I kept looking up the side streets, trying to get to a place where I could get up to the curb and get a good film of the president. But it was so packed. I mean, they were just as thick as they could be across each street and then down the side, and you could not get close. So I kept walking and kept walking and kept walking, and finally I get down to Houston Street. And people say, well, how'd you know that the president was going to go the way he went? They changed the route. Well, I'm blonde, but I could tell the way people were lined up. That must be the way he was going. So I didn't go down the sidewalk. I went across the street and across those 2 grassy places to get down there where I wound up. And I actually had a very good spot. I had taken my camera and made sure all the buttons worked on it and everything, and was so excited. I've got to tell you about this. I've never experienced anything like I did down there that day when it comes to excitement and electricity, and just you could just feel it in the air. Have you ever been in a situation where the hair stood up on your arms, on the back of your neck? Well, that's the way it was. It was like static electricity. And I was so excited. I just couldn't help it. And you could tell when he was getting closer because you could hear the people starting to cheer as they got closer. And then they turned right onto Houston Street and turned left onto Elm Street, and I thought I was going to die. It was just awesome. And not long after he turned left onto Elm Street, there was a noise. And that noise went bang, bang, bang. And I distinctly remember thinking, why would somebody let their children bring something like that down here? I thought it was those things that they had when I was a child. I don't think they make them anymore. You just throw them on the ground and they pop.
Oh, they still do.
They still make them? Okay, and that's what it sounded like. It sounded like those little popper things. And I started filming as soon as they started onto Elm Street. And I'm filming in concert with the motorcade, and just I hear the bang, 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 and I'm still filming, and then just as they get to this side of it, there was a big noise, boom! And when that happened, it looked like the whole back of his head came off. It looked like a bucket of blood just out the back of the head and over the trunk. Now people, they were talking a while ago about the film, about the limousine stopping. And this gentleman over here asked me just a while ago, did I see it stop? Let me tell you something. The whole world stopped for me right then. I'll show you pictures in a minute where everybody else is on the ground, but me, I'm standing there with my camera still up to my chest like this. I was frozen, stiff in fear and in shock. So I can't tell you whether it did or not. This is a Zapruder film. You've seen this a million times. That's me coming into the film.
That's you.
Got right behind, what was that guy's name? Brim, Charles Brim and his son. And he had been hit, and so she's beginning to notice that something's wrong. There's Jean Hill. Okay. This is one piece of evidence that I trust because Jean Hill's thumbprints on it. Can't make that up. Can't do anything without that. And I think that happened just right before the fatal shot, because if you notice, there's a little knot coming out. It's like it's fixing to come out the back of his head. That's the way I see that. But like I said, I'm not a researcher. And that's me standing up with everybody else on the ground. But I couldn't move. And I'll make this statement right now. I personally don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald fired a shot. And I'll tell you why. I know that I'm blonde, and it's natural. But I could figure this out on my own. If he had been up, or whoever, I don't even think he was shot. He was not shot from that window. Because number one, it's half closed. I'll show you that in a minute. And he had a whole, whoever that person was in that 6th floor window, if they shot, they would have shot when he's coming straight down Houston Street for a whole block straight on, not having to lead him through trees and passengers like a duck. When he had a perfect shot. Why would I wouldn't even do that. I would have taken the best shot. Now, there is the 6th floor window. This is a Willis frame. Just seconds after the assassination, or maybe minutes. But see that window up there? It's half closed. You can't get that shot off in a half closed window. The other thing is, see that tree hanging down right there on the top left of that picture? Well, that is that one right straight across from the door of a sixth-floor window next to the pergola on this side. See that tree? That's the one everybody was standing under that was on that side of the street. But which way are the people running? They're not running across the street to the sixth-floor depository building. They're running to the grassy knoll. Why? Because that's where the shots came from. There's a close-up of that window. That's books in there, that bookcases, that is not a human. Finally, I got enough guts to walk across the street because I saw people gathering over there. And I did see people coming and talking to people, and I thought, well, they're going to want to talk to me in a minute. So I went over there and I stood, and I stood, and I stood, and I stood. Now, see, you can see there what kind of clothes I have on. I have on a Chantilly. You ladies know what Chantilly lace scarf is. And you can see my brown hair through the Chantilly scarf. That it is a Chantilly scarf over a brown wig. And those are my shoes. I'll show those to you in just a minute. See those right there? I have them both. I have them both, but I want to show you something. I wasn't smart enough not to clean them up. But see that little, whoa. See that little stripe running down the side of there? Yeah. Right there? Okay. That was right there. We can see where it's been cleaned off. That was yellow paint that I stepped in that day, where they had painted the yellow stripes along the curb. And there was a lot on my bottom of my shoe, and I couldn't remember what I had done with the clothes I had on that day. And my daddy died in 1994, and when we were cleaning out the storage building, my brother said, "Sister, we found something you might like to have." And I said, "What?" He said, "I think it's the stuff that you had on when Kennedy was killed." So I went over there and looked, and it was my shoes, it was my coat, and my headscarf, but the mice had gotten into those, and they were nothing but rat beds. But I do have my shoes. I wish Dr. Fetzer was in here because he did some tests on the paint. That's where some of it went to. And the conclusion was that the color matched exactly. They took the paint off the side of the road too, and that it matched color-wise exactly, but there was no fluorescence in the paint on my shoes. But we don't know when they started putting fluorescence in the paint on the side of the street either. You did? Okay. And then when I talked to Gary Shaw, and I honestly can't remember whether it was 69 or 70, I wasn't trying to hide. I just didn't know who to talk to. And I knew it was dangerous. I felt it was dangerous. My boss, everybody else, as a matter of fact, my boss told me if I went to see Jack Ruby in the jail, he was going to fire me. So I didn't. And I love Jack Ruby. He was a very good friend to me. He was not the Jack Ruby that y'all read about. He was a very kind, very generous person. But he did have a temper, but he never exhibited it toward women. I mean, he's not going to hit a woman when she's got to get up on the stage, take her clothes off that night. By the way, let me just answer this question too. Were you a stripper? No. I tried it once. And the men in the audience kept yelling, "Put it back on!" So I just started singing. And so, but I told Gary Shaw how I saw a policeman that I knew who come to the club every night. His name was Roscoe White. His wife was Jack Ruby's hostess. I would go over after our show to pick up Jada. We would usually go out to the Alabama. They had a band till all night long, and we'd go out dancing. And I told him, I said, I saw him. He was coming down the grassy knoll. And that's when I found out that I felt like I had the right to leave, because if they wanted to find me, he knew where to find me. And I knew he recognized me because he was used to seeing me in purple hair, green hair, red hair. It didn't matter. He was used to seeing me. And we made eye contact. I knew he recognized me. And I didn't know what happened to my president. I wanted to know what happened to my president. So I left and went back to my car so I could get in the car and turn on the radio. Well, I had an old Buick, and the radio didn't work good down there in those high buildings. So finally when I got out on 75 where the old one-story Holiday Inn was, the first hotel as you left downtown, and I heard it come in that the president had died. And so I pulled into that parking lot, and I don't know how long I sat there and cried. But I finally went on home, and I took some sleeping pills and went to sleep. I told I told Gary Shaw how Roscoe was dressed that day, because I'd seen him that way a lot, because when he would come to pick his wife up, Geneva, he would park his car on the curb, which you weren't supposed to do, but he was a cop, he could do whatever he wanted to. And he would go to the trunk, he'd take his gun belt off, and take his hat off, and he would go upstairs to pick up his wife. That's the way he was dressed that day. He did not have on his belt, his gun belt, he did not have on his hat, but he had on his badge. And everybody looked at me like I was some kind of a nut, because why would somebody run around like that? Well, we finally found a guy named Hughes. Can't remember who said this to. It's off his film, and there's a still. And if you look right up there, see that cop right up there? He doesn't have on a gun belt. Doesn't have on a hat. And if that is Roscoe White, and see the one leaning over the car, on that side kind of leaning over and something, that's Patrick Dean. And, yes, both of them were Dallas cops. And if that was him, and I know it was, and according to who these people, when they went back there, the time element of the time that he would take to walk across there and come on down and through the pergola and down the hill, that would have been the cop I saw. Did he have anything to do with it? I don't know. I just know that I wish there'd been more cops down there that day. This is a memorandum from the FBI. And oddly enough, it's on the 25th of November, the night I went back to work finally. I had stayed in bed taking pills, and finally my mother, thank God for a wise mother, came in and said, "You're getting up and you're going to work tonight. You're not going to stay in this bed and vegetate. Get up and go to work." Our club was the kind of club that you went up a flight of stairs, it was a landing, another flight of stairs, and into the club. And when I opened the door that night, I noticed there was two men standing on the landing. But it didn't bother me, because that's where a lot of people waited for their party to catch up with them. But as I approached the landing, this taller man stepped forward. He had identification. And guess what kind of identification? FBI. And he said, "Miss Oliver?" I said, "Yes." He said, "We understand that you were down at he didn't call it Dealey Plaza or the Knoll, he said the grassy place, taking pictures when the president was killed." I said, "Yes, sir, I was taking film." He said, "Have you had it developed?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Where is it?" I said, "It's in my camera." He said, "Where is your camera?" Well, we all carried makeup kits. I still do. It takes a lot of paint to keep this barn painted. And I said, "It's in my..." Gary, I said, "It's in my makeup kit." He said, "Well, we want to take it and look at it, and I'll get it developed and look at it, and we'll get it back to you in a few days." Well, laying next to that camera was a Prince Albert can full of marijuana. Candy Bar had been sentenced 15 years for less than a half an ounce, and I had a whole Prince Albert can full. Oh, I don't know. I guess the FBI put it in there. And so I was stooping down like this, and I lifted it up where the lid was facing him, and I took the makeup tray out, got the camera, switched it out real fast. I didn't want him looking at my makeup kit. And so they did not take my camera. They just took the film out of the camera, and they said, "We're going to get these developed, look at them for evidence, we'll get them back to you in a few days." Well, I was glad to get out of there. Glad to see him go. I've never seen the film again. And I peculiar that this was sent out the morning of the 25th. I may not can read it from here, but that third paragraph, one of the 35 millimeter color slides depicted a female wearing a brown coat taking pictures from an angle which would undoubtedly show the depository building in the background, la 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 la. Anyway, that's just kind of strange that they sent that out. And there's been other inquiries made about my film. Now, I'm not going to make any about it. I'm still alive. Oh gosh, this one's really going to be hard. There was a gentleman that made the request for my film, and this is what came back. The film, which was taken by Beverly Oliver, was not retained by the FBI. Does it mean, he didn't say supposedly taken, claimed to have been taken. The film which was taken by Beverly Oliver was not retained by this office. In 1977, after I gave testimony to the House Select Committee and told them where my camera was, I'm not accusing them, it's just one of those other coincidences that after I told them, my camera disappeared out of the storage building. The only thing that was in there was a lot of my old childhood pictures, which I only have 3 or 4 left because they took this one big round hat box suitcase that had the camera and a lot of old pictures that meant nothing to anybody but me. I don't know, we don't know what happened to it. But we'll just look for just a minute what retain means. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the word retain means to keep, in possession, or use. According to the World Book Encyclopedia Dictionary, the word is defined as to continue to have, or to hold, or keep. I don't know what they did with my film. I don't know if they ran it across the hall so they could say that. I have a bunch more I'd like to say, but my time is out. But even Jim Fetzer, in one of his books, mentions the shell game they played with the film and stuff, and he has a pretty good idea where mine is. But where's the gentleman that's going to do this?
You still got a few minutes, Beverly.
Huh?
You still got a few minutes.
Well, I want to leave a little bit for Q&A.
Okay.
Okay, so, I'm going to do this one. I'm waiting on him to come good. It's got a long leader on it. But do you know what the 3 worst problems that we had in our school system back in 1963? Talking in class, running in the hall, and no, it wasn't smoking even. Chewing gum, that was the other one. What are the 3 worst problems we have in our school system now? Guns, drugs, guns. And if you go back to 1963, specifically November the 22nd, 1963, you can see what happened. And if ever we needed God to bless America, it's today. If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I had to start all over with my family and my life, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today. The flag still stands for freedom
Minnesota, the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stood to say, I'm proud to be an American where it means I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men God gave that right to me. And I'll probably stand up next to you as the fingers till today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I'm proud to be an American where it means I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men God gave that right to me. I'll probably stand up next to you and the fingers till today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Another just echoes all records off the shelf. I didn't listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got to go. I like that old time rock and roll. They're trying to take me to a disco. You wouldn't even get me out on the floor. In minutes I'll be headed to the door to buy some old time rock and roll. I like that old time rock and roll. The kind of music that soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old and that old time rock and roll. Yeah, now you dance for it. Come up here. Don't even try to play a tango. I'd rather listen to some funky old soul. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Found me a really cool rock and roll. Say I'm old fashioned, say I'm over the hill. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. The kind of music that soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old and the old time rock and roll. Reminisce about the days of old and the old time rock and roll.
Can I get a little bit more volume? Okay, we're not. I damn sure am not doing Patsy's line. All I can think about up here when that happens, and him coming up here, I'm thinking, dear Lord, please, we don't need a hip replaced. Oh, God. Has this been a little bit of fun? Beverly's going to do a Q&A. I mean, I just, like I said, I saw this and I was like, oh dear God. I mean, I know she's only 32, but she's. We're going to do the Q&A. I'll set this microphone back up. But holy smokes, that was funny.
Do you have any questions?
Oh.
Encore?
How'd you get my?
Are you ever afraid for your life?
Not anymore. The question was, am I ever afraid for my life? I was for several years until when I did the JFK movie. I had to deal with a lot of things I had not ever dealt with before. And I'm thinking it was Oliver, I'm not for sure. Somebody, is Oliver or Kevin or somebody said, Beverly, if they were going to kill you, they're not going to write you a letter. I have 2 letters in my briefcase over there that says, snitch will kill you or something, death. And he said, if they're going to do that, he said, they're not going to warn you and let you get your gun loaded first. And so that helped a lot. Doing the movie helped a lot because I would drive miles out of the way to people going through Dealey Plaza. The next time I went to Dealey Plaza and got out of the car was when I did The Men Who Killed Kennedy. And it was because of that documentary that I did. And but he did like to have me on his arm because he liked to have he said pretty woman on his arm. But anyway, we went to the Cabana Hotel and we went upstairs and there's a party going on and they were kind of like out in an atrium-like area. So then I don't know if it was an atrium, but it was not in a room like this. There's a lot of people sitting out there talking. So this guy came over and we went down to the, gosh, I'm getting old, I can't think of the names of those rooms now. Not the Alabama room, but the big room. To have dinner, and that's where they have the band and they have the dance floor and everything. And we were there, and there was 2 guys with him. One